Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Not sure why I'm chuckling so much today. And this story comes from Little Bear 1053 from the Am I the Arsehole here subreddit. And before I do get into this story, I do want to give you a warning that there's talk of domestic violence. So if you do want to skip the story, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. Now this story is titled, Am I the Arsehole for not wanting my wife to do surrogacy? My 34 male wife, Olivia, 32 female, was asked by her sister, Sophia, 29 female, if she could be a surrogate. Sophia has struggled with infertility for years, and she and her husband have been wanting a kid for a long time. Olivia and I have 4 sons, 10, 5, 5, and 3, and don't plan on having more children. Olivia wants to do this for her sister and already agreed to it before discussing it with me. After Olivia gave birth to our youngest, she suffered from postpartum depression. I'm worried that this might happen again, and not to mention the toll it will take on her body. I talked with her and told her my concerns, but she got defensive and began yelling at me, telling me that I'm a horrible person for not wanting to help Sophia and her husband after they've struggled for so long. I told her I wanted them to be able to have a kid, but there were other options that didn't involve her. She shouted some more and stormed out of the house and didn't come back until the morning. I messaged Sophia's husband, Dean, as he and I get along really well. I told him how I felt about the situation and he completely understood and told me he'd talked to Sophia. He messaged me later that night and told me that he had tried to change Sophia's mind, but she wouldn't listen. When Olivia came home from work that night, she stormed up to me and slapped me. She told me that Sophia said Dean didn't want to follow through with a surrogacy because of me, and Sophia was really upset about it. Olivia called me selfish and told me to get over it because she's doing it regardless of how I feel. I've given up talking to her about it, and I don't want her to get more angry. She's been sleeping in the guest bedroom, and I'm pretty sure she's only staying at the house because of the boys. We barely talk, and she doesn't even look at me. I got a message from Dean saying they've got an appointment later this week to begin the process. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't want to see her go through what she did again. I guess there's nothing I can do though. She's already made up her mind. I'm going to start in the comments with Textonic, who says, Dude, I think your marriage has bigger problems than your sister-in-law's pregnancy desire. Seizure replies saying, Yeah, I gotta ask OP, does she hit you often? Breaking says, I've been on the end of this. I thought everything was fine and it was a few small cases with her. Then it dawned on me that 99% of the time things were fine because things went her way. I was acquiesced every time. Most of the time we did truly agree, but the other times I just went along with it. So it wasn't until I looked at what happened, I stood up for myself and beliefs and realized those were all times I was gaslit and hit. Big Pear says, I help or not, I would be more worried about your wife's behavior towards you. You expressed concern. She turned to anger and physically assaulted you. This is not good behavior towards a loved one. Not the arsehole for expressing your concerns. Jokester says, not the arsehole, she unilaterally chose a decision that will affect your whole family. Your concerns are valid. I don't like the fact that she physically assaulted you. She's now ignoring you, creating a hostile home environment for you and your children. A marriage is supposed to be a partnership. That is not happening. Is this normal behavior for her? Physically assaulting you, giving you the cold shoulder. Unfortunately, I think this will be the straw that broke the camel's back. I doubt your marriage survives the pregnancy. You may not want to do it, but get a consultation from a divorce attorney. Your wife is taking you for granted, but also quit communicating with the in-laws. They will support her and drive a wedge between the two of you. And one more comment from Top Bit, who says the slap alone would push me to a divorce lawyer, not to mention all the shouting. This is what she's like when she's not suffering from PPD. A friend of mine did this for someone. The hormones they put her through so she could carry the embryo were brutal. Her moods were off the chart. I'm sure she expects you cater to her every passing whim. This doesn't sound like something that should happen without both married partners agreeing. And we're going to cover the domestic violence part in a moment, but This is something that affects your whole family. You have children, and pregnancy is a huge thing that will 100% affect everything that you're going through. So I totally understand why you've got concerns against this. I think with 4 children, the position in life you're being in, I would feel the same way. Of course, it's sad for Sophia. And of course, you want to help them when they've been struggling for that long. But you're absolutely right to raise concerns about it. There's no two ways about it. So for her to come into this and then hit you, yeah, that would be the deal breaker for me immediately. Someone lays a hand on you, thinks that the way of talking about things is raising their voice at you and shouting at you, telling you that you're the horrible person for raising concerns about everything that's going on around you. Fuck that. But OP comes into their post with an update and says, I've been reading the comments on my first post for the last several days, and I'm feeling a mix of emotions from them. There are things I need to address, so I'll do that now before I get into what's been happening since that post. To start off, many people have noticed that I haven't replied to anyone's comments and are calling me out for it. To be honest, I didn't plan on answering any comments. I've seen posts where the OP doesn't reply to anyone, so I didn't think it was a big deal. The comments were very overwhelming as well. I've seen a lot of comments saying that this is fake, and honestly, I wish it was, but it isn't. I would never lie about something like this. I'm not the type of guy to do that, and the reason my account is new is because I didn't want to post anything on my main account. There have also been messages I've received that have been less than kind and haven't helped in the slightest with what's been happening. The things people have sent me are really hurtful and disgusting. And I've been noticing people call me an arsehole for going behind Olivia's back and talking to Dean. The reason I spoke to Dean was because anytime I tried to talk to Olivia, she would ignore me and walk away. Sophia wasn't even an option. She hasn't liked me since Olivia and I began dating. I have no idea why, but she's always been rude to me. I knew if I talked to her about this, it wouldn't go well. And the thing that everyone has been talking about, the abuse. So, this wasn't the first time Olivia has hit me. This started a few months before our oldest was born. It happened out of nowhere. I talked to her about it and she promised it wouldn't happen again, but it did. Every time she would hit me, she'd apologize afterwards, but soon she stopped apologizing. I did try to stand up to her, but whenever I did, she hit me harder and said she'd scream if I did anything. I told her I'd go to the police and she said she'd claim it was self-defense. She then began to mock me by saying that no one would ever believe me and they'd all side with her and I'd never see my boys again. It just got worse as the years passed. I know a lot of people will call me weak and that I need to grow a pair, but I was terrified. I didn't want to lose my kids. They mean everything to me, and if I had to put up with the abuse to be with them, then I would. Olivia has never touched the boys. I asked her one time if she had, and let's just say that didn't end well. I've checked them for marks and have seen nothing, and the boys are hardly out of my sight, and I haven't seen anything amiss. She also never hit me in front of them. She always does it when they're not around. My 2 older brothers, Sam and Jack, figured out what was happening and begged me to go to the police, but I couldn't. I asked them not to say anything, but my oldest brother, Sam, has a friend who's a lawyer. I found out only recently that I've been talking to him about it. I've been secretly telling him when they notice I have a new mark or when something happens. Back to the main problem though. I hadn't seen Olivia for almost 2 days, and when she came back, I asked if we could talk. The boys were with Jack for the day, so they weren't in the house. She went to walk away again, but I stepped in front of her and said we needed to talk. This was the first time I stood up to her in years, and I was scared as hell. She looked shocked, but then she put the scowl back on and huffed out a "fine." I had my phone beside me and recorded the conversation. We sat on the couch and I told her how I felt about the surrogacy. She kept rolling her eyes and scoffing every time I said something. I told her I was worried about how it would affect our family. I brought up the PPD again, and she got angry. She started yelling at me, telling me it was my fault that she had it and I should never have gotten her pregnant. Every kid except for our oldest, who wasn't planned, was her idea. That's not to say I didn't want my boys. I did, but I didn't have a say about it. She called me a horrible father and husband and said that I should support her. I said that if she goes through with the surrogacy, I won't be supporting her as it's not my kid. She got mad, hit me, called me an arsehole, hit me again, and left the house. I called Sam and asked if he could come over and waited for him to arrive. When he got to my house, I just broke down. I told him everything what's been going on. The abuse, the surrogacy, the self-harm and suicidal thoughts. He hugged me and told me it would be alright and everything would work out. This is when he told me about his lawyer friend and how he and Jack had been talking to him. I told him I recorded the conversation with Olivia, and he said he'd send it to his friend, along with a photo of the bruise from when she hit me before, and a few other marks as well. I had given up years ago, and my kids were the only thing keeping me going. I suffered from depression and self-harm, which I still do, and I think if I didn't have my boys, I wouldn't be here. I'm finally standing up for myself, and it feels good. I'm going to divorce her and go for full custody. I just hope the courts won't take her side. And I just want to thank everyone who's been really kind about this, especially the people who messaged me. I haven't replied to all of them, but just know that I appreciate it so much. And one of the top comments from this post said, from Jokester, who says, good for you. Only you can stop the abuse. She knows she can physically assault you and you won't do anything about it. You need to press assault charges on her. You need to see a divorce attorney. Just because you're a man doesn't mean that you have to put up with physical abuse. You've let this go on for too long. Eventually she will start abusing you in front of your boys. Is this the example you want to set for them? To be physically abused by their spouse who claims to love them? Do it for your boys. Otherwise they will think this is normal behavior. I'd also recommend putting up some nanny cameras in the house. You have audio, but a visual will seal the deal. And I'm glad that OP has taken the right steps to get themselves out of that situation. That sounds absolutely horrific. And you know, you like the comment said, you don't want your boys to be seeing that either. It sounds like something that can only keep escalating time and time again. I always find it particularly interesting, and you know, I'm not slamming on anyone here or anything like that, but how abusive behaviors can be normalized in your own minds. I've been watching like a documentary, very popular at the moment. I'm sure you may have seen it as well. This whole baby reindeer thing that's going around on Netflix. How behaviors get twisted back around on you. You feel guilty for certain things. And we saw similar behaviors in this one where she told you that no one would ever believe you and they'd all side with her and you'd never see your boys again. Fucking sick, man. But I hope OP does get themselves out of this situation. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from St. Vincent from the Relationship Advice subreddit and says, 25 male, my girlfriend 25 female can get defensive very easily, becoming a point of resentment. How to tackle. Hi Reddit, my girlfriend and I have been together seriously for 9 months, although a significant amount of that has been long distance. We get along extremely well, with loads of shared interests and ambitions, lots of mutual love, support and trust, and we are a great match in the bedroom too. She is very intelligent, well-travelled, low maintenance, and I think she is absolutely beautiful. We very rarely argue, and when things are good, it's by far the most amazing relationship I have ever been in. I want to be entirely clear that I'm aware of how lucky I am to have found someone so well matched, which makes the following all the more difficult to face. The thing that's given me doubts at the moment is that she can be very defensive, reacting to even well-meaning offhand comments as though personal attacks. This is not just with me but with other people, and even my parents said she was lovely but found her prickly. I think the root of it stems from her relationships with her parents, especially her mother, with whom this problem is worse by a long way. She has told me her mother has always been very unloving, unsupportive, and even undermining, with one of the major disputes through her teenage years being wanting her to fulfill a traditional Catholic role by getting married and having kids as soon as possible, instead of pursuing higher education and seeing the world. Her relationship with her mother is to the point where entirely unprovocative comments from her mum make her fly into a rage. At a very awkward first dinner with her parents where my girlfriend caused a huge scene over something seemingly inconsequential to me. Comments blown out of proportion, for example. I also noticed that her father is very critical and quick to anger when talking to her mother/his wife, which I think may have set a precedence for her. I'm not trying to change her relationship with her parents in any way, but trying to identify where the source of this behavior may be, so it can be addressed where it spills over into her interactions with others, including me. I should stress that this isn't the case all the time. Days will pass without anything like this happening, but when it does, it casts a shadow over my day. I'm an easygoing guy, and with the nature of my work, have to deal with people all the time. I've not made a scene over anything but the most extremes of these occasions. But it's gotten to the point where I feel like I've said, "Honey, I'm not criticizing you, just saying," or similar too many times. And it's embarrassing to see this behavior sometimes rearing its head around my friends and family. In response to one recent outburst via text over me simply repeating something important I'd said a few days earlier, I was straight with her. I don't think her temper flips are acceptable. I loved her, but that there was no fun when she does that. She responded with, "Noted," which I suppose could either have been a tail between the legs acceptance or a bare minimum apology. Often these instances are too small for me to want to make a fuss when they occur, so I let them pass. It's taken a while for me to come to terms with the fact that this is a genuine issue to be dealt with, rather than something I can get used to. I know I haven't given great examples, but from talking with others and really reflecting on things, I'm positive I'm not being oversensitive or judgmental here. The tricky aspect of this is the current long distance. I don't want to bring things up while we are far apart, but then the time we do spend together seems too special to waste arguing. I'm aware that I can be a people pleaser and will generally try to avoid confrontation when possible, or bring it to an end quickly, often before really expressing the extent of my feelings. This is something I'm actively working on. I'd love to be with this girl for life, but I don't want to fast forward a decade or so and find myself tied to someone that at best I have to tread on eggshells around, and at worst resent and constantly be at odds with. If we were to have children, I'd want them to be raised in an environment of patience, empathy, and calmness. I know this is thinking far into the future, but in a long-distance relationship, you have to commit to make it worthwhile. I know no one is perfect and want to work with her through this to the point that it's no longer an issue. I believe she feels strongly enough about me that she'll want to make the work too once I bring it up. So I guess my question is, how should I go about this? She's coming to stay with me for 2.5 months in a couple of weeks. Should I bring this up straight away when she's settled in, or wait until it happens again to have a serious talk? She is not aware of this being a large and persistent issue for me. I'm not sure how she'll respond if I bring it up out of the blue. I feel like this is ingrained behavior at this point, so I'm not expecting it to resolve itself right away. But has anyone experienced something similar? Even just being with a partner you think is so right in so many ways, but has a behavioral problem that needed to be addressed? If so, how did it work out? Many thanks in advance. And there was barely any comments on this post, but we do have an update in a second, and my first thoughts on this is that you just need to bring it up ASAP. You need to talk to her as soon as possible, long distance or not. You can't keep delaying this. It's an issue that's going to affect your relationship massively either way, and it's at the point where you need to make a decision. So you need to talk to her about this. It needs to change, and if it doesn't, you need to go your separate ways. It's as simple as that for me. But OP comes in with her update and says, "I've had the talk with her. Unfortunately, things did not go particularly well. I expressed the things I wanted to express in the way that I wanted to, but while she was initially receptive, she has since let me know she's extremely upset I didn't bring this up sooner, and that she feels I have been deceitful and dishonest for not telling her before. In my eyes, I have been honest in bringing this up now that it has become a real issue for me, and I can't agree with her views on this. She also seems to be turning the issue around on me, saying she can't understand why I should be affected by her tantrums. My word, not hers. Seemingly not understanding that her mood affects those around her, and that it's not normal behavior. As it's been left, we'll speak sometime tomorrow or the day after once we've reflected on this whole thing. But it seems we're at an impasse. I'm slightly shocked the situation devolved as quickly as it did. I don't see how I can continue to commit to this relationship if she's not willing to understand my concerns. But never did I want or expect to be considering breaking up." And for me, I think that would pretty much seal the deal. If she's twisting things back around on you, not willing to discuss it really, telling you that she don't understand why you're affected by her tantrums, which of course are going to affect you, so it just seems like this is the end. This is the end. But now, what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.